What's going on, everybody? This is Roaming Prepper Channel. I'm your host, Pete, and I want to thank all of you for joining me once again for a situation report on Monday. So this is the latest stuff that I've got compiled. For those of you who are new to the situation report, it's something I do every week on Monday. I try to anyway. And a lot of it is open source intel, it's OSINT. It's a combination of corporate compilations that I get because of my previous and current job, as well as other sources that I'm either subscribed to or come to me. And I kind of summarize them and give you relevant items. Where I can mention what the source is, I bring up. And this is one of those no rabbit hole kind of things. This is just what's coming in the news feeds, what's coming in internationally. I think in America and Canada, we kind of get insulated because of the Pacific and the Atlantic, and we don't know what's going on elsewhere. So try to bring that to you. And again, it's open source intel, and I will try to tell you what the source was if it's relevant. So I'm going to start with going by regions of the world in alphabetical order, starting in Africa. Excuse me. Cameroon. Paul Biya declared winner of the presidential election, according to Africa News. Cameroon's top court has declared incumbent Paul Biya, the world's oldest president, the winner of the latest election. I don't know anything about Paul Biya, unfortunately. Mali government forced to close schools due to fuel crisis. That's an interesting one. Africa News again. Mali closed schools and universities nationwide starting Sunday due to a fuel scarcity caused by a blockade on fuel imports jihadi militants imposed on the capital. Granted, we're not expecting anyone to blockade us, but it's interesting. This could be a very interesting study of what would happen if fuel was suddenly cut off, which is a possibility with a cyber attack. So I may dig into this one a little more. That was Africa Press again. Sudanese paramilitary advance into military's last stronghold in Darfur. This is from the Associated Press. Notorious paramilitaries said they had seized the headquarters in the center of the besieged provincial capital of North Darfur, the Sudanese military's last stronghold in Darfur. So apparently, so for those of you unfamiliar, Darfur broke out in a civil war, which conveniently started about 6 months after the incumbent government decided to give Russia and China naval bases in the Mediterranean, and all of a sudden they get into a civil war. I wonder what happened there. Anyway, it basically, for lack of description, was the National Guard versus the Army, but all the National Guards at one time, if that makes sense. It's something along those lines. Basically, the militias. We'll see where that goes. That's another example of what a real civil war would look like. People keep saying insurrections on January 6th. Yes, it was a riot of idiots. Maybe they thought they were an insurrection. I don't know. I think it's stupid. A real insurrection would be in the streets. None of us would not see something ugly. The movie Civil War kind of touches on it in the background of the storyline of the reporters. So again, another good example of what could happen, which is what we do, right? We kind of pay attention to this stuff and then say, okay, if that happened, what would I do? Moving on, East Asia Pacific. Australia, firefighters stop spread of out-of-control bushfire in northern New South Wales. ABC News. Cambodia, Thailand. Cambodia begins withdrawal of heavy weapons from border following peace deal with Thailand. This is from the Khmer Times, KHMER. The Ministry of National Defense has begun implementing the first phase of heavy weapon withdrawals from the Cambodia-Thailand border in line with the peace agreement signed in Kuala Lumpur, something that President Trump's administration negotiated with Thailand, Cambodia, and Malaysia as the intermediary. Good for them. That's a good deal. Next one, Europe. Germany, low-level agents in Germany. Russia's covert shadow force. This is from Euro News. Germany is turning to a front line for hybrid, Germany is turning into a front line for hybrid warfare. There you go. With German intelligence warning that Russia is recruiting so-called low-level agents, ordinary citizens paid small sums of money to carry out acts of sabotage or espionage. This is from Euro News. That's something we should all be concerned about. How many chicken farms burned down the last few years in America? All those fires in the military manufacturing in Germany, France, England. Don't tell me that this isn't going on. And again, this is a very low level, low risk. They find some guy with a beef and say, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount. Go and set a fire over here and burn this building down. And then it makes me wonder, is this what happened in California and in Portland and all these damn fires? Did, they go through TikTok and YouTube and say, hey, you know what? This guy's an environmentalist, or that guy hates the government. He hates Trump. He hates Biden, whatever. And said, hey, you know what? I'll pay you 10 grand. I'll give you 5 up front. Go and burn this shit down, and I'll give you the other 5 when you're done. And the guy goes and does it. That's a very low risk, high reward type of agent. So that's kind of scary. This is from Euronews, by the way. Spain, tens of thousands protest a year after deadly floods. Spaniards have taken to the streets of Valencia to demand the resignation of the regional leader because of flash floods from last year. Okay, moving on. Turkish prosecutors file new espionage charges against Istanbul's jailed mayor. Prosecutors filed new espionage charges against Istanbul's jailed mayor on Monday, intensifying the judicial pressure on the opposition politician seen as a top rival to the incumbent president Tayyip Erdogan. Interesting. Middle East, North Africa, Lebanon. Lebanon says Israeli strikes kill 3. This is Arab News. Lebanon's health ministry said on Sunday that Israeli strikes in the country's south and east had killed 3 people despite an ongoing ceasefire deal. Israel claimed it targeted 2 members of Iran-backed Hezbollah. Moving on, Tunisia. Hundreds protest in Tunisia's capital over worsening pollution crisis. This is interesting. This is from Arab News as well. Hundreds of Tunisians marched through the capital, Tunis, on Saturday to protest a severe environmental crisis caused by pollution from a state chemical plant in Gabes. I don't know how that's pronounced. Moving on, South and Central Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan. Pakistan says 5 soldiers and 25 fighters killed in Afghan border clashes, according to Al Jazeera. Fresh clashes near the border with Afghanistan have killed at least 5 Pakistani soldiers and 25 fighters. Pakistan's army says, as the two countries are holding peace talks. Interesting. India, moving on to India. Cyclone Mantha, M-O-N-T-H-A. Okay, Cyclone Mantha, basically a hurricane on the other side of the world. Andhra Pradesh to be most effective. Cyclone Mantha. I keep wanting to say Mothra, like from Godzilla, like Mothra. Yeah. Located over southwest and adjoining west central Bay of Bengal, is likely to intensify into a severe cyclonic storm by October 28th. Speaking of hurricanes, Western Hemisphere, Melissa, Category 4, it actually became a 5 earlier today, as Caribbean braces for impact, according to Reuters. Hurricane Melissa has developed into a Cat 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds up to 140 miles an hour. Like I said, it did hit 5 this morning. So now, usually, my own experience, I've been through about 8 hurricanes on the Gulf Coast. When they get that intense, they can only hold that energy for so long, and then they start to break up. Now, the good thing is it's making a hard right, and it's going to go kind of between Jamaica and Cuba and head off into the Atlantic. The bad part is the dirty side of the storm, which if you're looking at the satellite view is on the right or on the eastern side, which is where it's, it's doing counterclockwise, so it's picking up all that moisture and speed, is facing Jamaica, and Jamaica is still recovering from the previous storms, so they're really thin on supplies. Jamaica has a pretty decent response for this, but it's a poor country and they're kind of struggling. So hopefully they can get their ducks in a row. U.S. may wind up sending some food there, which is great. Moving on, Argentina, Milei emerges triumphant in high-stakes Argentine midterm elections closely watched by Washington, according to the Associated Press. Argentina's libertarian president Javier Milei won decisive victories, I didn't know that, in key districts across the country in midterm elections on Sunday, clinching a crucial vote of confidence that strengthens his ability to carry out his radical free market experiment. This is from the Associated Press. I don't know why it's radical. It seems to be working. Anyway, moving on. Brazil. Brazilian authorities say they addressed housing shortage for climate talks, defend oil drilling. According to the Associated Press, Brazilian authorities said Friday they've made progress in solving the housing shortage for attendees of the upcoming UN climate conference, while also defending a recent decision to allow exploratory drilling in the Amazon. Then Mexico. Mexico reaches security, migration, and trade agreement as tariff deadline looms. El País, the newspaper. Mexico City and Washington have been experiencing tension for 8 months. Thursday marks the end of a 90-day period that the U.S. president gave the Mexican government to evaluate their trade relationship. So I guess they're on the verge of working out a deal with Mexico on certain things. If they do, that's great. Mexico and the U.S. and Canada, we're kind of tied together whether we like it or not. But that would definitely ease some of the tensions, which would help. Then they have to figure out the cartel situation. Anyway, that's a whole nother video. Mexico, again, this is from Insight Crime, one word, Insight. Mexico, will new reform help Mexico address money laundering challenges? No. Reforms to Mexico's anti-money laundering, good Lord, I can't talk today, anti-money laundering law earlier this year injected fresh hope and marked a key step forward in the fight against organized crime, but ongoing challenges may hinder the strengthening of controls over suspicious financial transactions. So, let's see what else we have here. Security report. Syria, fragmenting control and regional rivalries in post-Assad transition. They're going to be struggling with that for a while. Yeah, folks, nothing else for us on this one. I think that's going to wrap it up. Definitely early in the video, I thought it was interesting. The Malian government forced to close schools due to fuel crisis. That's from Africa News. I'd encourage you to look into that. And the Sudanese paramilitary taking over the federal government base. Those are interesting because you think about it, that's going to be something that's very relevant, something that could happen. Do I think we're going to have a civil war tomorrow? Absolutely not. I'd be shocked if that happened, at least not at this time. Who knows, a month from now I may think differently. But the sudden fuel getting turned off, because you think about it, cyber attacks when they took out that pipeline caused a little bit of a fuel issue in the southeast United States on the coast, on the southern coast of the East Coast, if you will. You know, Virginia through Tennessee, that area, and down to Florida. Imagine instead of a blockade, you just hacked or destroyed somehow the energy infrastructure in Texas or Louisiana or Western Pennsylvania. That would cause a serious problem very quickly. So I'm interested to see how Mali is handling it and what's happening. We don't obviously know. I'm going to go dig into that because that would be a good template for how we should prepare for something similar. Anyway, that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. God bless, Godspeed. Thanks again for joining me for a situation report, and I will see you guys on my next videos this week if I can get the time to do them. You guys take care of yourselves. Be safe. God bless.